What is up, guys? Ivan here with GetIvan.com, and I'd like to welcome you to my section on engagement tactics found in my 2019 SEO strategy guide. So, point number one, only promote yourself on websites with real traffic. And that's a really big one. There's a lot of tactics out there where people are doing all kinds of marketing gymnastics, I guess you could say, and they're not concerned about the traffic on the assets that they're involved in. There's syndication methods, there's backlink building methods, link stacking, is still popular, all kinds of interesting things like that. And you can see results from just about anything to some degree. Whether or not those results will stick is another question, but in my experience, if what you're working with doesn't have real traffic, then it's just a gamble. So that is my first and probably my most important core point about the kinds of promotions that you do in an attempt to increase your engagement, right? You're not really going to get any engagement unless you have exposure to real traffic. Okay. Point number two, make sure you set up Google Analytics and Google Search Console. So those are simply two, Google properties that I think provide valuable insights and will allow you to see real traffic coming in, where it's coming from, the kinds of things you're ranking for, and so on and so forth. There are other tools out there, but anything that is outside of Google is likely to be inconsistent. Not to say that it's not going to provide you with valuable insight, but it may not be consistent. In the past, I've used proxies, for example, to track search engine ranking positions, and I have found that no matter what proxy company you use, the location will provide differences in the search results. So on one hand, it's as long as you generally know what's going on, it's not a big deal. But on the other hand, if you really want to know what you're ranking for, then it's probably best to just look to Google for that kind of thing using Google Search Console. So that's a really basic example I can provide. All right, so moving, and of course, Google Analytics is going to tell you bounce rate and give you insight on your traffic and things like that. So that is another great recommendation that I can make, easy to do for anybody. I have a guide, a free mini guide in my tips section on my site, getivan.com, on how to add people to your Google Analytics and Google Search Console account if you need help. It's just really easy to figure out how to set those things up. But if you need help, I have a guide on there. You can add someone who's familiar with it. If you want to hire me to help you get set up on there, that's no problem. And it shouldn't be a problem. So that's pretty much it. Let's move on to the third point here. So all of these points below are, let me adjust real quick. All of these points underlined are going to be some basic engagement tactics that I recommend to give you some ideas, So first and foremost, you've got content quality and conversion potential. And this should be your number one concern, after these 2 points, in terms of what can I do to increase the engagement, the quality of engagements that I'm getting on my site. The foundation is your value, the bottom line value, right? So being concerned with your content quality and conversion potential should be at the top of your list of priorities. I'm just going to go ahead and read this. Some think that there's a raging battle between traffic and conversions, but when you really break it down, traffic is in high supply, whereas conversions take wisdom. There are a dozen major sites that are essentially traffic machines, but if your page does not convert, then it is simply water crashing against the rocks. So the bottom line value, the aesthetic quality of your total conversion potential, etc., are easily the most important engagement factors. So commenting on that further, just there's sites like Facebook, there's Google Ads, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's Reddit, there's all of these different sites out there that have traffic source. And for that reason, yes, there is value there, but let me blow this up while I talk. But in the question between what is more important, conversions or traffic, obviously, if you're interested in SEO, you're interested in traffic. But you have to remember that search engine optimization is about optimizing your asset, your content, and so on and so forth, to qualify for better rankings and therefore better traffic. So SEO has a great ROI, and conversion potential, but you're not at the bottom of the foundation of everything. Is the content. So SEO is a response. I've talked about this in previous videos. SEO is a response from Google to something you're doing right. You know what I mean? So in that sense, the traffic source is telling you we want conversions. Therefore, you've got to understand that traffic is definitively less valuable than conversions. And there you can go back and forth on the argument. There are some interesting points you could make. Obviously, if you can hit a threshold of diminishing returns in your CRO attempts, conversion rate optimization, right? And therefore traffic becomes more interesting. With a really, really big brand who's done a lot of promotions over the years and who has really expanded on their real estate, they're going to be more interested in quality. They're going to be more interested in unique approaches. They're going to be more interested in diversified traffic sources rather than necessarily conversion potential. So yes, there is a certain give and take to the argument, but the bottom line is that traffic is in high supply, and how you present information and the bottom line value is going to affect your conversion potential, in a more profound way. Therefore, the most valuable aspect between the two is easily conversions. And I could talk about this for a solid hour. I mean, I have some really good examples. I don't know if this video is the time to give those examples, but I'll just say that should be, the point is that being familiar with value and with what your audience is interested in should be your first concern. So that's it. Let's move on to the other points for increasing your engagement. So point number 2, backlinks. And as I'm saying here, backlinks are meant to be the result of engaging content, not something that you force for traffic. If you still want to build links, and the best way to go about it, is the slow route. Do your research and reach out to influencers that you feel might appreciate your content. Phone calls especially can go a long way, whereas emails may never get seen. Do a Google search for keyword plus blog or something similar in order to find companies in your space who you can network with. You can offer free guest posts or for a backlink to be included in a post of theirs where you feel you can contribute something valuable. So this is manual, white hat, organic outreach. It can be tedious. It can be a waste of time. But it can result in legitimate interest, especially if you make phone calls. Most people out there don't have, I wouldn't say courage, but it doesn't feel good to promote something cold marketing to somebody and then to be cursed at or to be treated with ugliness or rudeness and things like that. And so that's a kind of discomfort that pushes a lot of us away from doing outreach. And even after years of doing this outreach and doing all kinds of promotional types of things, it's still occasionally upsetting. Somehow there's always someone who will do something that makes me go, why do I do that? Why do I do this kind of sales approach, And so I mostly do inbound nowadays, but because I don't feel like, why should I have to, be someone that is reaching out, trying to say, please give me something. I'd rather have someone come to me saying, I need something. And so that's the great thing about inbound, the great thing about being comfortable with setting up your own landing pages and putting yourself out there, but not reaching out. So that's a good point. And so that's kind of the con side of any kind of outreach, whether it's email marketing or backlink, link acquisition or whatever. And so you can even do, I suppose you could do link acquisition in bulk, to a large audience, using an email marketing type strategy. But in my experience, when you make a phone call, if they pick up the phone, you're going to get an answer. Whereas the vast majority of the rest of the time, you're probably going to they're not even going to open the email. You're going to get ignored, so on and so forth. In my experience, a lot of businesses out there are very disorganized. So when something new comes in front of them, and most businesses don't even know the language, right? It's difficult to make a connection. So that kind of limits you to, the influencers out there that might be be aware. They're always really paranoid about juicing competitors, or they think that you're a competitor or whatever, right? Even if you're in another state or not really involved in the same kinds of things. So you got to be aware of that and be reasonable in terms of the kinds of link acquisition that you do. There's all kinds of gray hat types of services out there. If you want to go to places like Conquer or Legit or even Fiverr, there's all kinds of companies who do pre-built packages for gray hat link building types of things. And you can see some results, but again, the question is, what's the best ROI for your time and your money? And I don't really feel that link building is in that arena anymore these days. In my experience, testing things and trying things, blogging is by far the best ROI possible. And from there, you can just drive traffic using paid ads. And as you get traffic, and your site increases in popularity and increases in content and all this business and repeat visitors and things, Google sees that. So it's interesting that you've got to pay for traffic to sort of gain this trust factor, a bigger trust factor, right? But it's a lot better. It's a lot more affordable than paying for backlinks or wasting a bunch of time trying to acquire backlinks before you have something that really even has conversion potential. You know what I'm saying? So if you do go for backlink types of approaches, I recommend syndication approaches. I recommend press releases. And of course, manual organic. So like I said in the post, you can do a search for your whatever keyword you're interested in. For example, SEO, consultant, blogs, so on and so forth. And for me, that would be something where I would reach out to some person who had a site and say, hey, I'm willing to do a guest post, but I'm trying to get a link back to my my site, getivan.com or whatever. Or, hey, can I provide you? I would even go as far as I would like to provide you some minor free service in exchange for a link, or you can pay too. There are people out there who will let you pay for guest posts, pay for links and kinds of things that have real legitimate blogs with traffic. So you just need to look for, in all these places, look for in their footer, right, for us, guest posting. They may even have a paid PR. Sometimes they call it PR. I've found, in certain sub niches, probably marketers have set up these kinds of authority brands, and you can pay them for syndication in their blog or whatever. So those would be the three that I recommend if you're going to do any kind of link building. And honestly, again, in my experience, unless you're trying to rank for something really competitive, and that's the ironic thing, is all of the free advice out there is coming from guys who are competing with each other, trying to rank for extremely high competition terms. And so it's not really practical to the average business, right? That needs to be concerned with their value, needs to be concerned with their infrastructure, needs to be concerned with, if I have something that converts, like, can I even just do paid ads? Rather than, what can I do to game the system? And it's really ironic. I recommend all of you go do a search on YouTube, for example, for SEO consultant, for SEO strategies and things like that. And you're going to see these different people, these different influencers out there who are ranking for those searches, but some of them are low and some of them are middle. And there are some searches that I've seen where the people at the top are not what you would expect. I've seen some hosting companies ranking in the top few for some of those big SEO terms, and you think, well, why aren't these influencers ranking there if backlinks, and all this business that they're constantly promoting are what it's all about? The short answer is that it's not what it's all about. There are varieties of ranking factors and different signals for Google to determine what's relevant as far as engagement goes. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I hope you get where I'm coming from there. And it doesn't hurt. Obviously, there's a lot of people who focus 100% on link building, but I've been there, done that, and I just don't think it's as cost effective. So my recommendation to you is to do some PR, look into some syndication opportunities, maybe do a little bit of organic link building. And the most important thing there is consistency. Just because you do it one time doesn't mean it's going to, make things last forever. Whatever you decide to do, be consistent about it. Do it every month and don't stop. Don't do it every month for 3 months or 6 months or a year. Just do something. If you're going to do any kind of link building, don't ever stop. Keep it going. So that's all I have to say on link building. And yeah, like I said, if you make phone calls, you're going to get an answer from somebody. And when they're talking to a real person, you're more likely to develop a relationship. Okay, so moving on, directories. So directories can be powerful, but you need no more than a handful to be effective. And they should mainly be used for accruing public social proof. So make sure to only get involved with those that generate significant traffic. Some great directories with traffic would be Google Maps, Facebook business pages, Yelp, Yellow Pages, etc. So someone posted something on Facebook recently. I saw a peer of mine sharing some sort of link from some guy at Google who talks about ranking. He basically was said apparently, this is a buddy of mine talking, or a peer of mine talking about it. He was saying that this other guy was saying that the argument has ended. Google is officially saying that directories and Better Business Bureau and things like that um, are not ranking signals, which is kind of deceptive because anything that's bringing you click-throughs, traffic, is a ranking signal. And ironically, Google actually provides schema data snippets for various searches on public social proof platforms. So if you've done a search before, and they'll actually show you, here are the reviews in Yelp, here are the reviews here, and so on and so forth. So I just don't know how far that goes. They're oftentimes Google will say something that applies to a very specific vein and leave out something that everybody is pretty sure is a ranking factor. So, my recommendation I'm not sure about all that. That's something to investigate at another time, but, I'm sure more information will come out over time. But I'm not recommending it for link building purposes or for link filtering purposes. I'm recommending it as a traffic source, that when Google sees that referral traffic, they like that. They're measuring what the traffic is doing and so on and so forth. I'm recommending it as a social proof solution too, for, having another facet to your business that can have success. So, like I said in the post, I recommend just a few or just a couple. Mostly what I focus on is Google Maps and Facebook reviews. At one point I tried to have some people do some Yelp reviews, but there were problems with account verification and all this business. And Yelp also, this is a whole other topic for another time, but they harass people. Anyone who signs up on Yelp and claims their listing, they, about once a year, they call me every day for a month. So I am not a fan of Yelp. I've done some Google searches on the problem, and a lot of other people are having the same problem. And evidently Yelp has been sued by, I don't know who, but people that are tired of being harassed by sales phone calls and things like that. So, and I've seen some people think that Yelp does some shady things other than that. If you don't buy ads, then some people are saying that they write negative reviews or drop their listing rankings within Yelp and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure about all that. Excuse me. I just know that I've definitely been harassed by them, and so it's been more difficult for people to leave reviews on Yelp than it has in Google Maps or Facebook. No problems there. I don't think I've had anyone leave a Yellow Pages review or a Better Business Bureau or anything like that. There's a number of other social proof places. You can have people leave reviews on Thumbtack, but there's no rankings inside of Thumbtack. So Thumbtack does rank, but Thumbtack, you can only get stuff in Thumbtack by doing bids. So there are going to be other directories depending on your niche, and it doesn't hurt to be a part of them. But I feel it doesn't matter what your company type is, whether it's local, e-commerce, whatever. Google Maps and Facebook are always going to be good places for you to get reviews and to build those profiles out, because you can get real traffic. I get a monthly report, and just on my blog that I recently started building, they're showing I'm ranking for things and showing real traffic coming in and real click-throughs. So I highly recommend getting involved in just a small number of highly authoritative directories, accruing reviews, building content, so on and so forth. Oopsie, accidentally minimized. Give me one moment. Okay, next point is social media and open forums, largely about raw traffic and generating interest. They do tend to have their own internal search engines, so that's a traffic generation aspect as well. Good examples of these kinds of assets would be Facebook, especially Facebook groups, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, Reddit, Quora, etc. So all of those places with traffic sources, any kind of engagement is going to bring you legitimate traffic. So Google Plus, as I said in a previous video, Google Plus is going down. They are taking it down, but and it's shifting over completely to Google My Business, which is Google Maps. But because they now have the ability to make posts and things like that. But a good example that I like to use is, in the past, I've used Google Maps to create brands and get involved in a lot of those groups that they have. And there was a case where I did I was in a fashion brand that I was building engagement for. I made this brand and joined a group, and all I did was comment on other people's posts, like them, and reshare them. And all of a sudden, started getting traffic to my page. Other people from those traffic group or those fashion groups would click through on my profile when I was making these little comments, and they would start engaging with my page. And a lot of the times it would be the same content from the same groups, maybe just a post that they hadn't seen or a post from another group that they could appreciate. And out of that, those people actually came people looking for leads looking for services, interested in different things. And this was actually a fashion brand that was meant to be a local brand. So pretty interesting to see that kind of thing happening years ago. And of course, you can make accounts in anything whatsoever. It doesn't matter if it's Twitter, it's Instagram, YouTube. Well, maybe not YouTube so much as far as engagement goes, but still other places, Pinterest, Facebook groups, of course. I think I already said that. So places like YouTube are not quite the same. Maybe you could see something like that from YouTube, but YouTube is going to be more about promoting the actual video rather than, going and commenting on things. So you could, if you had something you wanted to promote on YouTube, you could take that video and then go and talk about it. And you have to, in terms of engagement, you have to find traffic sources with communities, So that would be one way to go, is finding online communities in some capacity or another related to what you're doing and just talking about things, even just free blog posts where you're discussing something of interest. Because, a lot of places, they don't like people selling or promoting something. So it's about creating information that's useful. And when you take a look at the biggest players in that space, lo and behold, homepage of MSN.com or MSN News or whatever it's called, Yahoo News, and Facebook trending stories and all that. It's all about things that are interesting, and it's never a sale, right? It's never someone selling something. So that's how you generate a following, and you build an email list, and you accrue traffic. It's always going to be through foot in the door types of promotions, and then you sell something to the people who recognize that you're a legitimate influencer in the space. Okay, so there's actually some link juice benefits also to putting your links in different places, but it's mainly the click-throughs and the the traffic generation that we're interested in this case, as in with pretty much everything else too. So, okay, so next point is, and on this point for social media and open forums, I recommend only get involved in a few, no more than a few. Excuse me. Don't go and make 10 social media accounts, because that's not going to do you any good. I like to typically do Facebook and YouTube, and I might do one of these other ones depending on whatever the niche is. It takes, somebody has to spend time. You can get some tools out there for auto posting content on social media. You can even get tools for auto posting to groups. They're more complicated and less common. It depends on what you're looking at, of course. But you can automate everything involved in these kinds of traffic source sites, but you got to take the time to set it up. You got to take the time to feed the queue. You know what I mean? So it's oftentimes just, it depends. It might be easier to do things manually. Hire a VA, for example, for real cheap to do things manually. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's move on. Paid ads via PPC, CPM, native ads, etc. Big players here would be Google ads, Facebook ads, Pinterest ads, Outbrain, Taboola, Zergnet, and more. So Facebook ads also includes Instagram ads. Facebook owns Instagram, so remember that. There might be some other facets to it. I don't really use much inside of there other than just Facebook and Instagram, the basics. Maybe CPM. Excuse me, so that I can get a lot of impressions. But other than that, I don't really mess with the other types of advertising methods. They have email acquisition types of methods, and obviously CPC, and all kinds of things in there. You're definitely going to want to set up your retargeting pixel on your pages you're trying to promote. That way you can collect people of interest, right? So that'll be something that you might want to Google, and something I probably include in my blog in the future, how to install your Facebook retargeting pixel, right? Excuse me. Google ads also includes YouTube ads, of course, because Google owns YouTube, as you probably know. And YouTube ads are awesome. I really like YouTube ads. So, those are going to be really cheap and, have pretty good conversion potential. But, you have to be involved in video to take advantage of that. So, there's, of course, PPC. There's also pay per call in Google ads, which is really cool. So if you're local or specifically want a phone call, then you can really focus on getting that phone call conversion, So, there's a lot to be involved in, even just across Facebook and Google. Those are the two that I really have spent some time on. But it might take you some time to get familiar with those systems, and you definitely want to pay attention to the metrics. I've done some consulting with some clients who aren't even looking at those numbers, and who are bleeding money from their ad budget. So you want to be conservative. It doesn't take a lot. You can spend $15 a month and get somewhere. So in the PPC arena, your copy is really king. The kinds of words that you're putting there, the clickbait, essentially, the things that you're telling people to, hey, click on this, right? practicing that is what it's really about. And of course, making sure that your landing page is going to offer what the people need who are searching for it. What are they looking for? And if they're typing it in and they're landing on your page, is that really what they're interested in? And so, excuse me, the beauty of PPC is you can learn a lot about your business and a lot about the product you're promoting really fast, a lot about the copy you're using too. And you can do split testing and all that business if you have special tools, and I won't go into that. That's a whole other topic. But in terms of conversion rate optimization, but I do recommend. I mean, every business should be involved in some level of PPC because it's just too useful to not be involved. Not in terms of just generating traffic, but also in terms of refining your offers, refining how you present certain things to certain end users, So I mentioned some other ones on page there. I don't remember. What were they? Let me take a look. Pinterest ads, Outbrain, Taboola. I only use Google ads, Facebook ads. Tried a couple other things, but I have not tried these. These are just examples to date. I know Pinterest ads is pretty new. They used to be only available to a select higher end, wealthy type of organizations. But they're public now, from what I understand, so I haven't looked into that. But you're welcome to look into that. They could certainly apply. But Instagram is going to be similar. So since they're both image based, so you might just try that first. I did want to mention Outbrain and Taboola and ZergNet because those are native advertising platforms. Native ads are those ads that you see that are below a news, say, article, for example, blog post or whatever. And they're always weird things like, try this one weird trick to lose, 50 pounds, or take a look at these celebrities, these child celebrities today, like, I can't believe how, ugly they are or whatever, and all those kinds of ugly kinds of weird pieces of content. And those pieces of content are made to generate impressions. That's the main purpose of people who do that kind of thing. They're looking to they're profiting on impressions most likely. And so that's the reason a lot of those spammy sites have a ton of native ads here, every page. You click on a slideshow and it takes you to a new page and a new page and a new page. And, but despite how spammy they are, that they're not actually they're very cost effective, from what I understand, form of advertising. Some of the prices I've seen are really amazingly low. So that's something that I haven't gotten into because of the network's nature, but it is something to consider because they're designed to be promotions for content. So they're supposed to be cheaper. They're supposed to bring in traffic. And one of the interesting ones, ZergNet, is free. The catch is that you have to include the ad banner on your site too. So that could be a really easy way to get started. You might have some things that are spammily promoted there, but hey, it's free traffic, So I would recommend taking a look at native ads and seeing if it might be something useful for your business. It's not something that, in the spirit of full disclosure, that I've spent any time on, but in the future for sure. So I do recommend, though, Facebook ads and Google ads. Get involved there and take advantage of it, Okay, and as you do that, it's funny, you go over to Google Search Console. It's hard to say Google so many times that I don't even want to say it anymore. And as you start doing these different kinds of promotional activities and, trying to acquire more engagement, you're going to see your searches increase in Google Search Console. So it's interesting how that works. Okay. Next point, email marketing. Extremely powerful, but you have to have special knowledge to develop a safe, cost-effective system, and you have to have a clean mailing list. So this is a whole consultation, email marketing, but it's very, very powerful, and I think it's pretty underrated. I haven't focused on it from a cold standpoint in a couple of years, but there was a point when I worked up to sending maybe 10,000 emails a month or so, and you've got to be familiar with server types of things. Well, you don't necessarily have to. You've got to warm up emails, domains. You can't just make an email domain and immediately start sending 10,000 emails or whatever, right? You have to kind of send a little bit a day, and then over time increase as your sort of trust factor increases with major mail platforms like Hotmail or Gmail or Yahoo Mail or whatever. And there's a lot of traps out there. I can't remember the phrase that they use, but there are people who set up these fake emails in directories and things like that to entrap scrapers, and place them on spam assassin lists, private blacklists, and things like that. And so you never want to use, I made the mistake when I first started of using my real email, but you never want to use your branded email for email marketing. You always want to never want to use a subdomain either. Only use your email, your domain, and your subdomains for legitimate transactional email purposes. Transactional email is only email that is non-promotional. It's only based on transactions or notifications, um, and also you can use those for building an email list too. If someone subscribes uh, to your list, then you're fine there with using your domain or subdomain. But you never want to do promotional emails from valuable domain names. You need to, this is a flash fire consultation on topic. You need to get some alternative name that's based on your thing, but is with a different TLD, which is different .com, .click, .net, whatever. And you could even altogether make a different brand if you wanted, but anything you're going to do large amounts of email marketing with, you don't want to do it from your own domain. So once you do that, you've got to get familiar with SMTP relay services like Mailgun, SendGrid. I think that's what it's called, SendGrid. Spark Post. Is it Spark Post? I'm questioning myself on all these different SMTP providers now. But there's more than a dozen major SMTP relay things out there, and if you're really familiar with tech stuff, you can even do your own server setups, and that's way more complicated. But anyways, got to get an SMTP relay service. Got to get an SMTP relay sort of medium, a program that you can then organize those things, configure an autoresponder, configure all those different things. So, but if you are interested in that, you're gonna have to go do some searches or contact me. I might be able to consult you on it. And it's especially useful for business to business because you can scrape a lot of emails from directories out there, and send things to a billion, just all kinds of businesses, millions and millions of businesses out there. But it can be effective, but it's also any cold promotional type of thing is going to be harder. You're talking about conversions within, handful of conversions within 10,000 emails, kind of thing. Now, on the other hand, in terms of more transactional, more inbound, email, can work really, really well because it works the same as, you're going to have a traffic source still, but if your conversion mechanism is to have someone opt into something or to send a message, then that can be effective too. But of course, in this context, we're mostly talking about using email as a traffic generation method. And of course, it's one of the few things where you can actually, reach out and make as many connections as you want rather than, here, let me put a sign up and see whoever contacts me through this signage. So inbound versus outbound. So, excuse me. The cool thing is that you're going to get click-throughs through those emails also, and it's legitimate traffic generation. So let's move on. Last but not least, certainly, is offline marketing. And I've seen some case studies where people have shown that they've measured their offline marketing response, probably through, a link actually, or maybe a coupon or something. And they found that the conversion rates were actually quite high. I mean, they're higher than in some cases and rival SEO. So it's nothing to scoff at. The catch is that it can be costly and may require special knowledge in some areas. EDDM retailers for residential and pod retailers, plus address scraping for B2B. So to explain that, so obviously when it comes to offline marketing, you're going to have something some sort of physical promotion involved. So you're talking about signage, you're talking about print resources, flyers, cards, mailing types of things. And those in a digital revolution, I guess you could say, offline is kind of scoffed at, but I think a lot of people will be surprised at just how alive offline really is. I've done consultations for a few consultations or had discussions with at least a few different companies in some facet of print or offline marketing types. And there's big money. There's niches that I've mentioned in previous videos that are successful solely because of offline marketing methods. I mean, it's kind of a proverb that if you build it, they will come kind of thing. And a lot of businesses are totally unprepared or ignorant of marketing methods that are local, will simply build their business, put a sign up, and if they're in the right location, then they're in business. And if they need more business, they do word of mouth promotions. They have people pass out cards, and and that's how a lot of businesses, I would say that the majority of local businesses in the United States are doing business that way. So offline marketing is still, it's probably still bigger than digital. I mean, it's hard to say, really. Hard to compare. I mean, there's a lot going on out there, Anyways, so EDDM stands for Every Door Direct Mail, and it's a special program offered by the Post Office, the United States Post Office in particular, where you can target zip codes with mail promotions. You have to go through a special system and process and all this business to set it up and to make it happen. But there are retail services that offer doing the whole thing for you that will also deal with kitting. So printing out the promotions, putting them in envelopes or whatever you need done. A lot of the better ways to do it are just postcards, so that you can save on costs. But there are a number of services out there. I think the one that I have bookmarked is Every Door Direct Mail, or everydoordirect.com, something like that. Let me see if I can snatch it up real quick. Should be here somewhere. Not sure. There's a service though that does it, and you can just send them your design proof. So you're gonna have to have a graphic designer do that, and that's something that I could also do for people, and then could be submitted. But anyways, so it's expensive. You're not going to be able to really do it unless you target. It's not really cost effective unless you spend around, I want to say, $1,500 or something like that, and then that will allow you to hit maybe 10,000 homes. So from a residential standpoint, that's pretty much the best you can do, somewhere in that area, 1,500 for 10,000 homes. So when you compare that to digital opportunities, obviously it's a lot more cost effective to do digital, but it may not be the same conversion experience, So it's going to depend on your niche. If you have a reason to target a residential area. So, and if your potential sale is even going to be enough to justify, for example, if you're going to hit 10,000 people and you're selling a $500 service, then and it's going to cost you $1,500, then you have to make at least a few sales to justify the expense, right? I'm not sure what the conversion rate is there. It's obviously that's pretty low. So if your average conversion rate is 1%, let's think here for a second. 10% of 10,000 is 1,000. So then 10% of that would be 100. So then 10% of that would be 10. So I guess that you have with a 0.1% conversion rate, it's something like 10 people out of 10,000. Maybe I did my math wrong. I'm trying to do it off the top of my head, but so that you got to make sure that you're prepared, before you spend that kind of money going in and doing that kind of thing. But yeah, it's an option, and you're certainly going to get some offline traffic, right? And Google's going to see direct visits. So there's that. And there's going to be some people who are going to type your name in on Google and click through by typing your brand name, which is really good. Another important reason why you want to have Google Analytics and Google Search Console installed, so that Google can see direct to site visits. So then there's pod retailers. Pod stands for print on demand. So this is just going to be your middleman marketing type of companies who do the print resources, and who are able to mail them out also. So that's going to be more business to business oriented. There's a service that I have bookmarked called, I think it's called Click Send or Click to Send or something like that. And there's one that I recommended not too long ago to someone, and they told me it was working really well, but I can't remember what it's called now. But if you're going to do that, you need to find a service that does print on demand, but then lets you upload everything to their site, and they deal with mailing, and you can upload the proof there and do all that from their dashboard. So let me check my folder here, and maybe I can spot something. Let's see. Yeah, ClickSend is the one that I have used in the past. And there's probably at least a few other options. There's a lot of print-on-demand companies, but not all the print-on-demand companies will do the mailing aspect, the offline marketing types of things. So that could be good. You can also get yourself a printer and some envelopes, and get familiar with kitting your own sort of offline marketing swipes. Of course, someone's going to have to take the time to do that. You might even be able to find someone cheap locally to do it for you. But yeah, it's not something that I have really done myself. But I do know that offline marketing to date, I do know that offline, I've used it for some things, of course. You can even do SMS texting through ClickSend. That's one thing that I use it for. For promotional purposes, you load in a bunch of phone numbers, and anywho, so but I do know that it's powerful. I've got some peers who have used offline marketing and who make a lot of money. So doing offline marketing, providing digital services. So go figure, right? But that's pretty much it. So there's a lot of different methods, concluding here, a lot of different methods for generating traffic. My best recommendation is going to be in the next video. So make sure to check out the next video, and we'll wrap up this whole thing, and I will catch you sooner or later. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.